Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Andrew. I'll admit I binged 4 episodes of Passenger last night. Like I actually had to stop watching because I was like, I need to go to bed. Excellent, brilliant. And I think it's a sentiment that other people have shared. I mean, the reaction I've seen online has been brilliant as well. What have you made of the reaction so far?
Oh, it's all utterly, utterly surreal. I mean, the fact that, so there is some saying, let's say, that it takes 4 years to make a thing, you know, from the seed of the idea to it being put on telly. And when I first heard that, I was like, that's a long time. But it's kind of true. I think this whole thing maybe started like late 2019, maybe. So it's been going on a while, and I'll never forget walking into Sister with the idea. Sister, the amazing production company who brought it to life. But I'll never get walking in there with the idea and episode one, and now for it to be on screen, it's just surreal. It's just utterly surreal. And you know, a huge mention has to go to the quadrillion teams and departments that have all pulled together and brought this story to life, you know, because they are second to none. They have worked ridiculously hard to bring every facet of every idea to life, every tiny imagining that I had. Little group teams of people in different rooms, in offices, scattered, all going, what about this, Andy? And like showing you like amazing ideas and just wonderful, like just wonderful. So it's, you know, it's surreal that it's out there now, and mildly thrilling and mildly nerve-wracking and all of the above. Yeah.
I can imagine that it's almost like a handing off baby, like a child,
Yeah,
and just letting it out into the world.
Yeah, because we've all watched it behind the scenes a lot. So for it to now just be out there, it's like, oh, okay. It's not really ours anymore. It's for everyone else now. So yeah.
Absolutely. Talk to me a little bit about the sort of seed, the nugget that inspired all of this. And it feels very reminiscent of a lot of sort of American dramas, which is why I think it feels so fresh to us over here. It's very sort of Fargo and True Detective, and there's sort of little hints I feel of some sort of like video game inspiration as well, a little bit Until Dawn, a little bit The Quarry. I mean, was there anything in particular that kind of inspired you or kind of drew inspiration out of you?
There's a few answers to that question. There's one I can't tell you. I can't tell you until it's all finished, because I would love to tell you about the thing, the whole reason behind it, or rather what the show is or what it's about truly. But I can't really tell you that today. But the seed of the idea was basically growing up in the Northwest. So I'm a Bolton lad, and I've got family in Oldham. I've got mates in little villages dotted across the Pennines, and the one common denominator that these little places have, these villages, these towns, these communities all have, is that they all seem to have humor at their core. Like there's a real warmth to the people and a generosity and a brilliance and a shorthand to the way they act and speak. But right at the center of them is this humor that you just don't get anywhere else. And no matter how dark the situation or how big the struggle, humor always seems to be the antidote. You know, they sit in the pub or wherever, parks or homes or wherever, and they make light of life. So I wanted to create a small fictional northern community and put something terrifying and unknown in there that could detonate as much humor as possible and push their reactions to the limits. And as you've seen, the most common reaction is they tend to just close ranks and ignore it until there comes a point where they can't really.
No, absolutely. And I did want to touch on the sort of video game element of it, because we've obviously got this 80s video game part of the story and a little nod to kind of like a Grand Theft Auto and a bit like that. I mean, was there, you know, is this sort of a little nod to video games of the 80s and kind of moving forward as well?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to, like, video games and devices is definitely a huge part of it. But like you've probably seen with the cars that we're using and the little kind of old Americana costumes that Darren Finch, the costume designer, brilliantly kind of came up with. He was like, what about this? I was like, I love that. That's brilliantly unusual, and I don't feel like we've seen that in the North before. So let's cross those two things over, and but just wonderful. But you know, a few people have asked me about you know, when's it set? It's set now. It's set in present day. But all of those things that I've just mentioned are meant to give off the idea that it's a small community that is clinging to its past and not progressing and is afraid to progress. So all those little details that Darren came up with and every other department came up with, have to keep stressing that, because this show would have been nothing without them. Yeah, they all helped. All those details they sprinkled on there all helped to hopefully give off that impression.
Absolutely. And it's brilliantly detailed as well. You've got so many sort of story arcs going on at the same time. But even like for me, episode 4, everything does also feel like it's also coming together in a very, very small, slight way. I mean, what was the sort of biggest challenge for you to bring this forward? Because I can only imagine that you've had some sort of, you know, red string going on, going across different features. What was the kind of biggest challenge for you to bring this story forward?
The biggest challenge for me was not standing on a rooftop and shouting out what the story was about at the very beginning, because like a proper giddy kipper, I just wanted to tell the world. I was like, it's this. The whole story is basically about this, but I can't even say that to you now, because I want people to, I don't want to ruin it for anyone still watching. But that was, I'd say that was the biggest. It was an exercise in kind of holding information back, I suppose. So when I started off, when I went to Sister with the idea, I had a very clear idea of the start and an ultra clear idea of where I wanted it to end, and a rough sketch of all the in-betweens. But yeah, I guess I needed a lot of help from the wonderful development team at Sister for them to just go, oh, maybe hold that bit back. Maybe hold that back until episode 5. Well, let's keep all that till 6. I was like, oh, really? Okay. Oh, can I not just tell them? No. Let's keep it a mystery, Andy. I was like, okay, let's keep it a mystery. Let's keep it a mystery. So that was the biggest exercise.
And of course, you're sort of stepping behind the camera of this as the show's creator and writer as well. Were there any particular other actors turned screenwriters or directors that kind of inspired you in this, or that kind of you thought of when you were sort of walking out around into behind the camera?
I mean, I've been lucky enough to work with who I feel to be the best of the best as far as screenwriters. Maybe not screenwriters come actors, but wonderful, phenomenal writers. Too numerous to mention, and I definitely don't place myself anywhere near the vicinity of being in the same category as them, because they're just off the scale. But actors come screenwriters. I mean, years ago I worked with Peter Mullen, who's a complete legend, and he would often, you know, we'd be acting together, and then he'd say, oh, I've got this project coming up and that I'm writing and directing. And I'd be like, are you in it? And he'd say, yeah, there's a little part for me. And I'd see him kind of crop up as this alcoholic dad or someone screaming at the bottom of the stairs. Or, yeah, I mean, he's just a wonder. He seemed to do that incredibly easily and skillfully, and I don't have that. But I'd like, it was never, people asked me like, are you going to be in it? Well, it was never a vehicle for me. I never envisaged myself being in this at all. But hat off to the people who can write and act in it as well.
Are you sure there's not a hint of you in any of it? There was an off-screen camera called Neil, a character called Neil that I thought, oh, that voice maybe potentially.
No, you mean am I in it? No,
I'm
not in any of it. No. Am I? No, I'm not. No, I don't think I am. Yeah.
Was that tricky at all? Did you want to insert yourself anywhere, or was it like this is completely I'm focusing on writing alone?
No, it was very easy. Honestly, I'm not making it up. I was, you know, people say, "Was this, you know, are you going to be in it?" You know, when I pitched the idea, I was like, "Nah, not for me. Not for me. Wummy's the lead, and I can kind of envisage all the other characters, and in no way, shape, or form do I fit into any of those molds. So it's definitely not me." And they, you know, giant hat off to the cast. Such a dedicated, imaginative, heartbreaking, brilliant cast who have far exceeded my expectations.
I wanted to praise you about the cast actually, because like Wimley's just incredible. All of your cast are just the
Yeah.
characters themselves are so incredibly well rounded. And I just think going about casting this, how did you go about finding everyone? Because I think you found or you wanted to ask Wimley to star in it, but was there anybody else that you were particularly keen on finding for this?
No, obviously Wunmi was a cert. But for me, she had to say yes. There was that little, negotiation. But other people, I mean, truthfully, no, I don't think so. I was open to. I'd sit writing and have an idea of who, no one specific, but an idea of the type of person, that was as clear as could be in my head when I was writing it. But as actual actors, no. That was where Sonia Allen, casting director extraordinaire, would come up with these brilliant suggestions. Like, oh my goodness, who's that? Yeah. And a lot of these people I've never met before or worked with before. There's maybe 2 in there who I have worked with before, who've surprised me and astonished me in the most positive and brilliant way with what they've delivered. Like, I could never have imagined that.
The character, I have to say again, just the characters in this are just absolutely tremendous. Everybody feels so well rounded with their own little bit of history. I mean, was there anybody in this that was particularly inspired by anybody that you knew? Obviously, that your town and your upbringing was instrumental in making this. But were there any characters that had sort of little bits of nuggets of people you actually knew?
They all the characters the brilliant characters that I've grown up with over the years are in there in some way, shape, or form. But I wouldn't say anyone specific. People have come up to me in recent times and gone, "Oh, am I in it? Am I in it? I bet you've put me in it." I mean, I was like, "No, no, no, no." But like, yeah, I'd say I've just drawn on anyone and everyone that I've grown up with. It's because it's in there now, isn't it? It's in there. So, but no one specific. People can rest easy. There's no one. There's no one. Yeah, yeah.
People going, I'm sure that's me.
I bet that's me. I bet that's me. He's taking the mick out of me. No, there's no one specific. No, no.
You mentioned before, but you've starred in a lot of incredible TV dramas. Were there any ones in particular that you would like to step behind the camera for, if given the chance, like a Broadchurch or The Crown? Would you have liked to have sort of done something behind the scenes there?
You mean writing it or
Yeah.
directing stuff? No, I mean they were masterfully done, and like just to repeat, I couldn't have. Goodness, yeah, couldn't have done anything. No, I couldn't have added anything to that. But I guess, yeah, going forward, I mean, acting's where my heart is. Acting's completely where my heart is. It's still, for me, the biggest thrill. I'm so passionate about it. Writing is a very close second. And being there at the starting box of the process has been a complete revelation in the best possible way. Maybe going forward a bit of, maybe in time, I don't know, maybe a bit of directing, maybe, but I might be useless at it. I've no idea. But I think there's a little thing to every actor who, I'm mid-40s now, and I'd say a lot of my peers would echo this sentiment, is that having read a lot of scripts, but also fed off a lot of different directors, you kind of start to know the bits that work for you and for your cast and the bits that maybe don't. And before you know it, you're mid-40s and you've amassed all these amazing tips that maybe you would want to use one day. But it's also, the thought of it just terrifies me. So maybe I'll just stick to acting and writing for the time being.
Well, it kind of leads me on to my next question, actually, which is, given the amazing response to this and how people have already received the show, could we see more Passenger? We've seen people crying out for a series 2. Is this is the idea that we'll carry on?
Cecily, I'm going to tell you something now, and this sounds like a cliche, and this sounds like a prepped answer or an answer that I'm meant to come out with, because all writers want a series 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a what have you. I am not just saying this, but the actors the cast that you're watching have right at the start of the most terrifying journey. I don't say that lightly. Like, they have no idea what's coming, and it's tip of the iceberg stuff. So yeah, we have held a lot of the answers back until the end of 6, but even at the end of 6, there'll be more things, you know, open threads that need answering. And yeah, it's just, yeah, they're standing at the gateway to something and they've no idea what it is. But it's when I first had the idea, yeah, it goes on and on and on and on. So who knows? Yeah, if people watch it and like it, then maybe we could do another one. But if they think it's horrendous, then I'll go in the other direction.